Always.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Ethiopia, Africa's oldest independent country, is one of the West's closest allies in the Horn of Africa. This huge country borders Kenya and South Sudan in the south, Eritrea and Djibouti to the north. Ethiopia is home to around 80 different ethnic groups, many with their own languages and customs. But control of this vast country lies in Addis Ababa, its capital city in the heart of the country. And that is resented by some of Ethiopia's many different peoples. Far to the east of the country lies Ethiopia's Somali region. The people here have Ethiopian nationality, but Somali identity. And many complain that their desperately poor region is starved of resources and is overlooked by the central government. And that has led some to rise up and challenge the government. A movement for self-determination led by the ONLF, the Ogaden National Liberation Force, started in the mid-1980s. They took up arms a decade later. Their attacks led the Ethiopian government to send in the troops and to carry out what many describe as a brutal crackdown on the 4 million or so people who live in this arid region. Thousands of people have died in a struggle that few outsiders are allowed to witness. It's an invisible conflict that's cost lives and livelihoods, and despite several rounds of talks in recent years, has no end in sight. So, after decades of conflict with little or no progress, should the ONLF give up the fight? A question for Abdi Rahman Mahdi, the ONLF's Foreign Secretary, as he talks to Aljazeera. Thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Abdi Rahman Mahdi, Foreign Secretary and founding member of the ONLF. Can we start by you telling us a bit about your organisation, why it started, who you represent and what do you hope to achieve?
The Ogaden National Liberation Front was founded in 1984, and after the end of the Ogaden War in 1977, there used to be another front which was called WSLF, and ONLF members were a youth organization of that organization. And at the end of the 80s, that organization foundered, and they lost vision and objectives of the struggle.
Okay, so what does the ONLF seek to achieve?
The ONLF actually we are seeking the rights of self-determination for Somalis under Ethiopian rule, which is now currently called the Somali region. But originally, when the British ceded Ogaden to Ethiopia, it was given the name Ogaden. So basically, we are Somalis under Ethiopian rule who have been marginalized and initially colonized, and since then we have been struggling for the rights of self-determination, and we are fighting for our human rights and against marginalization.
When you say that the Somali region has been marginalized by the Ethiopian government based in Addis Ababa, what do you mean? What kinds of things has the Somali region been excluded from?
For example, it has different nuances. In the early 60s or 50s, there was only military occupation, and we were considered that what they would say is the line is Ethiopian, but these people came across the border, which was wrong. One third of Ethiopia is Somali territory. Actually, we are Somalis. We have lived there for since the 16th century. There has been a struggle between Somalis and the Highlanders. It has been going on and off. But because of the 19th century, when colonialism came to Africa, the Ethiopians got weapons, the new weapons of machine guns and these things, and we didn't have that chance.
So you have an Ethiopian nationality, but a Somali identity?
Well, for us, we don't consider us Ethiopian nationality. We believe that we have been occupied, we are colonized, but legally in the international law now we are under Ethiopian rule, Ethiopian nationality, but we are Somalis. We are different culturally, economically, socially, and we have a different outlook of life, and our way of life is dependent on actually Somalia.
But Ethiopia is made up of so many different nationalities, so many different ethnic groups. We know the bigger groups, the Oromos, we know the Amhara, for instance. So this is Ethiopia. It is a patchwork of different ethnicities.
Yeah, in principle, they are patchwork of different ethnicities, but they are ethnic groups that are dominated, marginalized, and have been since history, since the beginning of the 19th century, have actually been practically slaves to a certain cliques of the Ethiopian regime. For example, the Oromos, the Gambelans, the Afars, the Benishanguls, the Sidamas, all of these people who are now, we have formed an alliance, are all oppressed, and we don't seem we are part of that Ethiopian system. It's an elitist system that is controlled by one ethnic group or two ethnic groups that marginalize the rest of the people.
So what sort of example, what kind of concrete example can you give us then to illustrate the marginalization of this Somali region?
Well, since recently we had only one secondary school after 100 years of Ethiopian occupation. We have got one. We had one hospital. You know, when I was 6 years old, my village was bombed, and I have to go to Somalia to get educated. Our people even today go to Mogadishu or Hargeisa for medical services. We don't have, you know, our women have no maternity services. We don't have, you know, enough schools. We don't have, you know, enough, you know. So, for example, if you look at the rest of Ethiopia, for example, Addis Ababa and beyond, the north of Ethiopia, you can see that per every 100,000 there may be 200 nurses. But for an Ogaden, 200,000 people may have one nurse. So
okay, so there is chronic underdevelopment, is what you're saying, in the Somali region. But there have been efforts made by the government in Addis recently, within the most recent years, to rectify this to some degree. There have been more schools, more hospitals provided for the region.
No, that is mostly made for propaganda purposes. For example, the Ogaden now is under trade embargo, under aid embargo. The 30% of women have been raped. There are more than 30,000 people under detention, killings, rape. So how can you develop people who are raping that when you rape 30% of the women? You're not developing that people.
So the ONLF is essentially seeking secession. It wants an independent state. They want a referendum. You want a referendum to be staged by which you assume that the Somali region would vote to break away?
No. That's a misconception that is being propagated by the Ethiopian regime. The Ogaden National Liberation Front is seeking what is already in the Ethiopian constitution, which is every nation has got a right to self-determination, including even leaving the country. So what we are saying is we should be given the right to decide our future, which could be part of, you know, even to have our own real self-administration, genuine self-administration. They elect for us their officers, they bring soldiers who actually, we are under military occupation. They say we have given you federalism, but actually we are just you know, a nominal, like the Russians, you know, Soviet Union during the, you know, those Soviets.
And how many of the Somali region actually support the ONLF? This is a region of around about 8 million people. How many people support you?
Well, no country in the world supports ONLF. We are supported by our people. We have got a fighting army. We have got offices in 60 countries of the world. We have got a big diaspora. We have got a
but how many people in the region? How many people in Somali region support the ONLF? For example,
last election we participated in, when they ousted us from power, from the regional government, we had 70% of the votes. So the majority of the Somali people in Ogaden support ONLF. But they are suppressed, they are subdued, and they are afraid, and they are killed. Even outside here in Qatar yesterday, some of our members were saying, please don't take our pictures because we are afraid, you know, our families back will be harassed and support. So because, although there is this lack of fear, but still our people support us 100%, because we represent their aspirations for the right to decide their destiny.
Okay, so you have engaged in a series of peace talks with the Ethiopian government. There's been dialogue. I think you've had 3 rounds of talks. They haven't yielded anything, have they? What are the chances, what are the prospects of another round of talks, a substantive session of dialogue with you and the Ethiopian government? Well,
our principle has always been, you know, if we can get our rights through peaceful means, that is always our preferred means. However, the Ethiopian government for a long time was refusing to sit with us and talk. So in 2012, finally they accepted to have a third-party Kenyan government to mediate between us. And then we came there, we were ready for a principal talk. But from that time onwards, for them it was a tactical maneuver. just decide what they are looking for a capitulation, which is not what we have been fighting for the last 100 years. But for us, it's a principal negotiation we have prepared.
When you talk about capitulation, I mean, I think what you're referring to is the Ethiopian government's insistence that you accept the framework of the Ethiopian constitution for the talks, and this is something that you're refusing to budge on. Is that right?
No, that's not the case. What we said is, under the framework of the Ethiopian constitution, if you are going to get our rights, we want to see what they offer. What does that mean? For example, the Ethiopian constitution in 1994, we were part of the government, we participated. And when the elections come, they just attacked us in our headquarters and threw out and banned us. So this constitution, even today, is not protecting the rights of our people. It's not protecting the rights of the Oromo people. 500 people have been killed just a week ago, since November in Oromia. So this constitution is just a name. For us, it doesn't matter. Our problem between us and the Ethiopian regime is not about constitution. If they apply the constitution as it is and give the people's rights, there will be no conflict at all. So it's not an issue of refusing constitution, of accepting the constitution. It's a question of actually respecting their own laws and constitution and rights.
In the mid-90s, you took up arms and started to fight for what you perceive to be your rights. What have you achieved with this conflict that has engulfed many parts of the Somali region? What's been achieved?
Well, first of all, it was not our choice. So it was a conflict that was forced on us. For our achievement today, most of the world knows about the Ogaden issue. We advocate through the European Parliament, through the American Congress, through all the regional, the Arab League, African AU, and our cause is now being understood day after day. For the first time, Ethiopia, since the 70s, 60s, used to say this is a border issue between Somalia and Ethiopia, and as a people, we were put under the carpet. Today, the issue of the Ogaden is on the table. It's on international forums. We are moving forward. Our people are getting more aware. Actually, our struggle has forced the Ethiopian government to claim that they are developing the Ogaden now. They are giving token, services there. They resurfaced what Mussolini have built in the early 35, one road. They are building some, saying they are building universities. So they are showing the world that they are trying to develop the Ogaden.
Okay, but let's go back to the armed struggle. Let's talk about some of the atrocities that have been carried out in the region. The people of Somali region have suffered a great deal in recent decades. Human Rights Watch points to you and your organisation and suggests that you have actually been responsible for killing ordinary people, people who may have alleged sympathies for the government in Addis Ababa, teachers, ordinary farmers. That's what they accuse you of. They also accuse you of human rights violations when it comes to the attack on the Chinese oil exploration facility in which 65 Ethiopian labourers were killed, 9 Chinese technicians. These are things that Human Rights Watch, at least, these are allegations that they put on your doorstep. How do you respond to those
Well,
things?
first of all, the Ethiopian government has got a lot of media clout and spin. ONLF is fighting for these people, for our people. We are the sons of those people. So we don't kill our people intentionally. In any armed struggle, there are some casualties, but up to the extent that is being propagated, that's not right.
But they say thousands, thousands of people.
Absolutely, we have never killed thousands. We have never killed thousands. It's on record. What we have said is, let the Ethiopian government and Amnesty International, everybody come to the Ogaden and do the investigations, and we are ready to own any mistakes we have made. We are ready to own any mistake we have made, but actually what's happened is the opposite, actually. The teachers who have been killed, if you read, Jeffrey Gettelman, who did a report on the Ogaden, they use the teachers as militias, they force the doctors and nurses to take guns and fight the ONLF, and when they die, they say ONLF has killed them. So that's a special spin that's propagated by ONLF. Sometimes ONLF may kill, for example, a spy who comes and reports on women and then rape it and kill 1 or 2 people, something like that. But it's not our policy, it's not our intention. We are not terrorists, we don't kill our own people. As for the Chinese issue, in Obole, it's true ONLF attacked that facility. It was guarded by a commando force of Ethiopian army, 500 commando forces. There was a big fighting between ONLF and the commando forces. We killed actually 200 forces, which were never reported. And what the Ethiopians did after we left the area, they brought their own casualties and said ONLF has killed civilians. The Chinese actually were part of this military complex. And when you go with a military convoy or military army, we say within a military complex, casualties come. ONLF did not go and kill them. It was the fight between these army and these, the casualty. And we apologize to the Chinese government. We actually took about 9 Chinese from the area, and we took them and we released them to Red Cross.
All right, we are going back in history. This is 2007, aren't we? Where are we today? What has been achieved by the ONLF with its armed struggle, and what remains to be done?
Today our struggle has expanded. We come together with other Ethiopian groups who are together. We have set up a new organization called People's Alliance for Freedom and Democracy. More than 5 nations from Benishangul to Gambela, Sidama, Oromo, and Ogaden, and we are also offering other groups.
So have you renounced violence?
Well, violence, you know, we have renounced violence from the beginning. We have never been violent, but we are in self-defense. We are not fighting because it's our choice. The Ethiopian government is using violence against us, and we are protecting ourselves.
The Ethiopian government suggests that you're supported and basically perform the duty of a proxy force, that you're being supported, armed and trained by a foreign government, namely Eritrea.
Well, you know, in the early 60s, they used to say Somalia trains them. That's the issue of Somalia. Then they moved to Al-Shabaab, and now they moved to Eritrea. Eritrea has no border with Ogaden at all. Eritrea, there is about 800 miles between Ogaden and Eritrea.
So Eritrea does not
support us.
We have train members of the ONLF.
We have got an office in Eritrea. Politically, because Eritrea accept us politically, but Eritrea does not give us arms, they don't give us funding. It's absolutely, they're creating this funding. Actually, even, well, if you look in the other way, Ethiopia is being supported by, you know, the European Union, America, China, everybody's giving them money. So what's wrong if I look for aid and get money, actually? In principle, it's not wrong.
So
but in reality, nobody supports us.
How far do your outside supporters determine your agenda, for instance?
Oh, you mean our diaspora, our people?
Yes, no, the Eritreans.
Absolutely, we are.
How far is Asmara dictating policy for your organisation?
When ONLF was founded, it was founded on one issue: the Somali government was dictating the rights of our people. From that day on, we took our destiny into our own hands. Nobody in the world determines the policy of ONLF. It's based on the will of the Ogaden people. We are fighting for the right of observation of people, and no one can change that.
Now, you're one of the founding members of the ONLF. You're the Foreign Secretary. You and the majority of the political elite reside abroad. You don't live in the Somali region of Ethiopia. Therefore, how in tune are you with the situation on the ground, with the needs and the requirements of your people? They must be weary of conflict by now.
Well, Melna Zenawi, who ruled Ethiopia for 20 years, lived 20 years outside the issue. It's not about you are living outside or inside. We live in the communication age. Our leaders go inside. Our chairman was there for 2 years, and he comes out and goes in. So it's the propaganda they say that we are not in tune with our people is not absolutely wrong. More than 80% of ONLF members are inside the Ogaden. There's a leadership inside the Ogaden. There's our center there, our military commanders, our security, our bureaus of interior and mobilization is inside. So we are not just simply people outside moving around. We are in the Ogaden.
So just to be clear then, has the ONLF renounced the use of violence? Are you pursuing, by all means possible, a peaceful settlement? We
have a right to defend the rights of our people. We have a right to, but we believe in peace. If the Ethiopian government is ready for peaceful resolution, that's why we went to Nairobi. We are ready for peace, but we will defend ourselves. When our women are raped, you cannot just lie down and let your mother and sister and your daughter being raped in front of you and claim I'm peaceful, I'm fighting peace with us. That's not there. Why is America bombing ISIS? You cannot. If someone is using violence against you, you have no other alternative but to defend yourself.
Okay. What's the next step?
The next step is we are going to unite the whole people of Ethiopia and create a new democracy in Ethiopia. We will take part. We have set up now PAFD. We are going to walk through all opposition of Ethiopia. We're going to bring them together, and we are going to fight for a democratic change that will respect every little nation in Ethiopia. That's our main goal now.
So, from what you're saying, it sounds very much as though you don't believe in this philosophy, this notion of ethnic federalism. This is the guiding principle that Meles Zenawi propagated in order to rule the new modern-day Ethiopia with so many different ethnic groups.
Well, there's a lot of hype on that issue. Switzerland is a federal state. Germany is a federal state. There is nothing wrong with federalism. There is nothing wrong with allowing the people their right and to have their say. Actually, those who are propagating that are those who have perpetrated for the last 100 years colonialism in Ethiopia. All the people in Ethiopia have a right to self-determination. The issue is not ethnicity in Ethiopia. The issue is when one group wants to dominate the rest of the people in Ethiopia. So we are going to dismantle that, and everybody should have their voice.
So how are you going to dismantle that? You say that you've now formed a much bigger group with much wider representation of different ethnic groups within Ethiopia. What's the next step? What do you do?
Well, we're staging mass demonstrations, peaceful mass demonstration in front of Addis Ababa. You know, our alliance is now expanding. The whole people of Ethiopia, we are going to start like the Arab Spring and insurrection all over the place. So that's what we are planning to do. Ethiopia is now boiling, and regardless of what hype is made about it, the regime is now in disarray. They're divided, and the people of Ethiopia have now risen up. They want their rights. We are tired of one clique dominating the rest of Ethiopia. So what we are going to do is create a real, truly African nations who are live together in peace and brothers there.
But this sounds like a lengthy process.
Of course, we are ready to. How long did South Africa defeat apartheid? When you are fighting for your right, time is not an issue for us.
So you no longer.
My father was fighting for our rights. I'm fighting. My children will fight for our rights. So for us, justice is the only solution. There's no other way. So
you no longer want independence. You don't want secession. You don't want the Somali region to break away from what is Ethiopia today.
Olnf cannot decide what the Somali people want. What we are saying is let them be given their right to decide. For example, Scottish people decided that they want to be part of Britain. So asking people what they want to decide is not a crime. The people, if they see we are all Africans, for example, Olnf is an Africanist organization. We believe in one African nation. So there's no value in having little mini states. But unless you have got first your rights, if I give you a choice together to live together and you choose, then we can live together. But if I force you and I try to have a slave, use as a slave, nobody will accept. So what we are saying is a free choice is not secession. A free choice means you can choose the right to live together in peace and in dignity, or you can live side by side in peace and dignity.
But so far the Ethiopian government has refused to even budge on the issue of having a referendum, of having a plebiscite in the Somali region.
Well, the Ethiopian government has no policy. The only policy in the Somali region they have is to dominate it, to exploit the oil, to consider the people as just, nuisance, and to exploit our resources and kill our people. They don't consider, even if they are allowed 10% of our rights in 1994, this fighting will not have started. So they don't accept, they don't give what they want is, they created a puppet administration who actually, when we lobbied in Europe and America, there's a lot of budget come specifically geared for Ogaden, and that goes through the military channels. So that's what they want. It's a cash cow for the army.
And I'm keen to hear then about this the bilateral situation between you from the Somali region and the Addis government. Are you saying that you're no longer going to pursue dialogue with Addis?
No, it's our principle. Dialogue is always open on our side. We will always pursue a principal dialogue.
Okay, so what is necessary to make this happen? What do you need? Well,
what is necessary is, for example, there is a Kenyan negotiators who are participating in these. And for the last few years, they are being frustrated because the Ethiopian government is always pushing the bush. And recently now they're in disarray, actually. When these were started, it was started by Meles, who was a strong leader who maybe could reach a decision. But today, there are centers of power. There is the army center of power in Ogaden, which is refusing any negotiations. There is the political power, which is maybe.
There's also a slight problem, isn't there? Insofar as the ONLF does not represent the whole of the Somali region. We're talking about 8 million people. You represent perhaps 50%, it's been pointed out, of the Ogaden clan, which is about 2 million people. So therefore, that's your weakness, isn't it? Insofar as you don't represent the entire region of Somali-speaking people.
What we represent is an aspiration of Somali people. We are ready, for example.
But they have other voices, they have other representation, don't they?
They don't have other representation. They have got only a puppet regime that is protected by the Ethiopian army. If they represent, why don't you go there and talk to the people freely without unfettered? What we say is, if we don't, they claim we don't represent our people. What we say, allow the international media to go there, to go to the village, to see what the people believe. Make it an open place. Then they can claim that we don't represent the people. They know they are they're holding our people by force, subjugated, and now they claim they don't represent the people. We represent the people 100%.
So after decades of conflict in the Somali region, it looks as though there's no change in the immediate sense. We're not going to see any progress in terms of the ONLF and other Somali groups actually entering into substantial constructive talks or dialogue with the Addis government. Is that what you're saying?
We are ready for that, and we have been advocating that. It depends on the other side. You know, to have peace, to have a real dialogue, two people have to be ready to go into dialogue. One side cannot decide dialogue while the other doesn't want it. So far, from our indication, from what we see, the Ethiopian government is pulling its legs. We believe they are not ready for real, genuine, substantive dialogue. And we do, actually, what we believe is there is confusion among their ranks. But on our side, dialogue is always open for us. So, but we will not sit there and wait for dialogue to fight for our rights. So
the ONLF then hasn't run out of steam. It's as strong as it ever was.
Well, ONLF is much more stronger than when I started it. When I was a member, I started in 1984. But today, we are much more stronger. We are much more experienced. We have got more support. We have got more, friends all over the world. So ONLF is stronger than before. And now we have got our other Ethiopian friends. We have got 70% of the people of Ethiopia who have got the same agenda as us to effect a democratic change in Ethiopia.
Abdi Ibrahim Mahdi, thank you very much indeed for talking to Aljazeera.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.